The unfolding controversy surrounding the Trump administration's use of encrypted messaging platforms to discuss sensitive national security matters has escalated into a significant political and legal crisis. At the center of this scandal, referred to as Signalgate, are high-ranking officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. These individuals allegedly participated in a Signal Group chat where they discussed military strike plans targeting the Houthi rebels in Yemen. The situation took a dramatic turn when a journalist from The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, was inadvertently added to the chat, exposing detailed operational plans involving F-18 fighter jets, MQ-9 Reaper drones, and specific strike targets. This accidental inclusion of a media representative in a classified discussion has raised alarms about negligence, transparency, and potential violations of federal record-keeping laws. During congressional hearings, lawmakers grilled administration officials over the use of Signal, a platform known for its encryption and self-destructing messages to coordinate military actions. Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, repeatedly refused to confirm or deny her participation in the chat, citing ongoing reviews by the National Security Council. In contrast, CIA Director John Ratcliffe openly acknowledged his involvement but defended the use of Signal, claiming that formal records of decisions were maintained through official channels. Legal experts, however, argue that using non-secure private messaging apps for sensitive communications could constitute a breach of the Espionage Act, particularly if classified information was mishandled or improperly stored. The statute criminalizes gross negligence in safeguarding national defense information, with penalties including up to 10 years imprisonment. Comparisons were drawn to past controversies, such as Hillary Clinton's private email server, though legal analysts noted the bar for proving gross negligence under the Espionage Act remains exceptionally high, requiring evidence of recklessness bordering on intentional misconduct. The fallout intensified when the non-profit watchdog group American Oversight filed a lawsuit against the officials involved, alleging that the use of Signal violated federal record-keeping laws. The suit argues that discussions about national security matters on the app circumvented transparency requirements, as Signal's disappearing messages effectively destroyed government records that should have been preserved. The case has been assigned to Judge James Boasberg, a federal jurist previously targeted by Trump for rulings against administration policies. Legal observers note that the lawsuit could compel the release of internal communications, potentially revealing further instances of insecure handling of classified material. Meanwhile, congressional Democrats have pushed for subpoenas to obtain records from custodians of these communications, aiming to bypass stonewalling by administration witnesses. Critics argue that the scandal highlights systemic issues within the Trump administration's approach to national security protocols. The inclusion of a journalist in the chat and the failure to notice his departure suggests a lack of oversight, while the reliance on Signal raises questions about accountability. Reports also revealed that one participant, Middle East envoy Steve Wood, joined the chat while in Moscow, amplifying concerns about foreign interception of sensitive discussions. Despite administration claims that no classified information was shared, experts warn that even unclassified operational details could provide adversaries with strategic insights. As pressure mounts for resignations, the administration faces a dilemma. Firing implicated officials could mitigate legal exposure but would deepen political instability, while retaining them risks prolonged investigations and further erosion of public trust. The Signalgate scandal underscores broader tensions between executive branch secrecy and congressional oversight. Lawmakers from both parties have called for heightened scrutiny, with some Republicans distancing themselves from the administration's actions. For now, the controversy remains a litmus test for accountability, with legal proceedings and congressional inquiries poised to shape its trajectory in the weeks ahead. The legal and personal repercussions of the Signalgate scandal have compounded the Trump administration's challenges, exposing vulnerabilities in both national security protocols and ethical governance. Following the leak of sensitive military plans via Signal, the non-profit organization American Oversight filed a federal lawsuit against key officials, including Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe. The suit alleges that their use of the encrypted app violated the Federal Records Act, which mandates the preservation of government communications related to official business. By employing Signal's disappearing message feature, the administration effectively destroyed records of discussions about military strikes in Yemen, undermining transparency and accountability. Legal experts emphasize that even unclassified operational details such as target lists and weapon systems, qualify as federal records if they inform policy or military decision. The case, assigned to Judge James Boasberg, a jurist known for rulings against Trump-era policies, could force the disclosure of additional signal communications, potentially revealing further breaches of protocol. The lawsuit has galvanized bipartisan criticism, with lawmakers from both parties demanding resignations and stricter oversight. Republican senators, while historically aligned with the administration, have begun distancing themselves, citing national security risks. Democratic representatives, meanwhile, argue that the incident reflects a broader pattern of circumventing checks and balances. This isn't just about one chat, it's about a culture of secrecy that endangers both democracy and the lives of service members, said one House Democrat during a press brief. The legal battle also raises questions about precedent. If signal chats are deemed permissible for sensitive discussions, future administrations could exploit similar tools to evade scrutiny, eroding public trust in governmental institutions. Amid the legal fray, the human cost of the scandal came into sharp focus when the wife of a U.S. soldier deployed near Yemen posted a viral video condemning the administration's negligence. In an emotional address, she detailed how the leaked signal chat exposed her husband's unit to potential retaliation by Houthi forces. They knew Signal had been targeted by Russian hackers. They knew the risks, yet they prioritized convenience over the lives of thousands of service members, she asserted, accusing officials of violating the Espionage Act. Her video, viewed millions of times, highlighted the administration's failure to address vulnerabilities even after prior warnings about foreign interception of signal communication. The soldier's wife also revealed attempts to contact her state senator, vowing to publicize his refusal to engage unless he demanded accountability. If he won't defend the troops he claims to support, every voter deserves to know, she declared, signaling a grassroots campaign to pressure lawmakers. The personal stakes of the scandal have resonated widely, particularly among military families and veterans groups. Advocacy organizations have amplified calls for independent investigations, while social media campaigns using hashtags like #HackSignalGate and Protect Our Troops trend nationally. Critics contrast the administration's aggressive prosecution of lower-level leakers with its leniency toward high-ranking officials, accusing the Justice Department of double standards. A junior analyst would be in prison for this. Why are cabinet members above the law? Asked a retired Marine colonel in a televised interview. This sentiment has fueled public outrage, with polls showing a majority of Americans favor congressional hearings and disciplinary action for those involved. Simultaneously, the scandal has exposed rifts within the Republican Party. While MAGA-aligned figures dismiss the controversy as a witch hunt, moderate conservatives warn that downplaying the leak risks alienating military voters, a key demographic. You can't claim to support the troops while ignoring threats to their safety, argued a GOP strategist in a closed-door meeting, according to leaked audio. This internal tension underscores the political tightrope the administration walks as it balances loyalty to Trump with broader electoral consequences. As legal proceedings advance and public pressure mounts, the Signalgate fallout has become a litmus test for institutional accountability. The lawsuit's outcome could set precedents for digital record-keeping, while the soldier's wife's advocacy exemplifies how civilian voices are reshaping national security discourse. With midterm elections approaching, the administration's handling of these crises may prove pivotal in determining its political longevity and the integrity of U.S. democratic norms. The international ramifications of the Trump administration's domestic controversies have begun to reverberate globally, further complicating its political standing. Canada, a long-standing U.S. ally, has emerged as a vocal critic following Trump's imposition of 25% tariffs on automobiles, which Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney labelled a direct attack on the country's economy and sovereignty. The tariffs, justified by the administration as a response to alleged national security threats, were met with widespread condemnation in Canada, where citizens and officials alike framed the move as part of a broader pattern of adversarial policymaking. In retaliation, Canadian civil society launched a grassroots boycott of U.S. goods and tourism, with flight bookings to the U.S. plummeting by 70% and consumers prioritizing domestically produced products. Social media campaigns under slogans like Buy Canadian and Elbows Up, a rallying cry symbolizing resistance, have gained traction, reflecting a nationwide resolve to counter perceived economic coercion. Prime Minister Carney's speech at the Ambassador Exeter Bridge, a symbolic trade artery between Windsor, Ontario and Detroit, underscored the rupture in bilateral relations. "We will defend our workers, our companies and our country," he declared, framing the tariffs as an assault on Canada's economic stability. Meanwhile, protests outside US consulates in cities like Toronto have highlighted public anger, with demonstrators condemning the administration's gangster-like tactics. Canadian lawmaker Charlie Angus encapsulated this sentiment during a rally, stating, "We will never kiss the gangster ring of this authoritarian regime," a reference to Trump's transactional diplomacy. The protests, though peaceful, have strained diplomatic protocols, with US consulate officials in Toronto reportedly requesting police intervention to disperse crowds, a move criticized as heavy-handed. Canada's defiance has resonated internationally, with allies in Europe, Australia and New Zealand applauding its stance. Analysts note that the boycott's success has emboldened other nations to reconsider their reliance on US markets, potentially reshaping global trade dynamics. This solidarity contrasts sharply with the administration's isolationist posture, exacerbating tensions at a time when US credibility is already under scrutiny due to the Signalgate scandal.